They laughed at him, mocked his body, mistook size for softness, but Butterbean didn't need speed or finesse. Just one clean shot, and every time an arrogant fool disrespected him, he made them eat the floor.
What would it take for people really to take you seriously as a fighter?
Well, most of the guys I fight take me very seriously, so I don't care about the rest.
These are 20 times Butterbean destroyed cocky fighters for disrespect. Butterbean versus Jackie Beard. Jackie Beard had a weird grin on his face when he entered the ring against Butterbean.
Heavyweight exhibition bout, scheduled for 3 rounds.
He mocked his flabby body, thinking this fight was over before it began. Beard even had the audacity to start his showboating mid-fight.
Three 1-minute rounds, remember, and there's 45 seconds between rounds. And Bean says, come on. It is interesting that Beard is adapting.
This fight looked exactly like two pandas fighting for the last slice of bamboo shoots in a forest.
Nonsense here. Beard slapping a little bit. Mills, how much do you think the power is diluted by a 16-ounce glove?
But then, Beard angered the monster inside the fat man, and a brutal right hand dropped him on the floor like a log. Butterbean versus Louis Monaco. Louis Monaco, the man whose name sounds more like an Italian bakery, thought he could last 4 rounds with Butterbean. He was full of muscle, and his neck was thicker than a tree trunk. But standing in front of him was a monster in a bear outfit. The arrogant fool dropped to the floor in less than 10 seconds.
Opposite of Butterbean, he lands a good right hand. Oh, there goes Monaco.
He had the muscles, but neither the brains or the chin to withstand Butterbean's missiles.
Good night. There.
He decided to take a nap on the floor, and the fight was over. Butterbean versus Marcus Rode. The next cocky fool who thought he could last against Butterbean was Marcus Rode. This fight looked more like two bears fighting for the last bottle of honey.
I didn't feel like him, so I said, hey, I like this guy. He looks like me.
After getting in a few good shots, Rode became arrogant and dismissed Butterbean to his face.
Well, get closer outside, because either way, his arms are too short. He can't turn on a punch. That's how you get power, is by turning from the waist. You generate speed and power.
Butterbean usually finishes his opponents within the first round, but somehow the fool lasted longer.
Slowing down, he's getting in the wheelhouse of the Bean.
And he hit Bean with the right hand right in the button here. Oh, Bean wants him to come on. Sure, that's his game.
More of the Bean next.
But Butterbean stopped playing games and dropped Rhodes in the third round.
And, you know, you were right, Scott. Why would Rhodes stand in front of the Bean?
He began seeing daylights and lay on the floor like a corpse. Butterbean versus Kenny Craven. Kenny Craven thought he could win by keeping his distance with Butterbean. He had a slight hesitation on his face when he entered the ring, but paid no mind to it. But Butterbean stalked him to the ropes and unleashed punishment in the corner.
A lot of time to train for the fight. Spent the last 12 days eating ice cream to try to get heavier. So it's no big surprise that he is much more stationary now and more of a target for Butterbean's big shots.
And then the panda launched an attack Craven won't forget.
Craven's legs weakening. Butterbean applying the damage.
This panda caught him on the ropes and unleashed a machine gun on his skull, and the referee stopped the fight before Craven ended up in the morgue. Butterbean versus Kevin Talon. Kevin Talon did the absolute worst when he stuck his tongue out against Butterbean. As soon as the bell rang, he walked in front of Butterbean like a walking piñata and ate some strong punches to the body.
Butterbean, a little head movement.
He managed to survive 2 rounds against the oversized baby, but then signed a death warrant.
Well, Talon just got knocked, and Butterbean trying to add his 30 seconds.
Butterbean detonated a torpedo through Kevin's skull, and he started punching the air.
Well, the way Talon's getting pounded, he may think he's Michael Jordan at this point. Butterbean just teeing off.
And his only lifeline was Butterbean's legs as he was falling on the floor. The bell saved him, but not for long.
3, 4, 5.
In the third round, the arrogant fool gave up and landed on the canvas. Butterbean versus Rodney Phillips. Just like all the other cocky fools, Rodney Phillips thought it would be best to test out Butterbean's jabs. At the start of the bell, Butterbean provoked Phillips to punch him, and that gave him a confidence boost. But then Phillips got scared of the panda's immense size and started running away.
A good left hook and a real powerful right hand. What a waste. Already you can see that.
In the second round, the oversized balloon got serious and sent Rodney to the hospital, teaching him not to mess with Butterbean, the 4-round king. Butterbean versus Cabbage. This next fight sounds more like groceries fighting each other to be on top of the shelf.
Butterbean starts to try to tee off. Nice leg kick by Cabbage. This is what he needs to...
Cabbage came in with confidence and decided he should have a fight with the balloon with legs.
Leg kick by Cabbage. This is what he needs to do. Stick and move like a boxer. Land some leg kick.
And then he ate kicks from the panda that looked more like he was doing crunches. Butterbean stopped playing games and sliced the cabbage with his punches.
He took some big shots.
The fight went the distance, but Cabbage barely made it out alive after damaging his elbow. Butterbean versus Zuluzinho. If you want to see two people who have no necks, then it's a fight between Butterbean and Zuluzinho. Both looked absolutely ginormous, like the ring was struggling to contain them. The fight began, and Butterbean made Zulu his pillow. He slept on top of him and crushed him with his weight. When Butterbean started to break his arm, Zulu chickened out and stopped the fight. Butterbean versus Peter McNeely. Peter McNeely was cheering when he entered the ring against the giant, like he had already won the fight, but little did he know that the fight was about to get ugly. McNeely got hungry and ate a few of Butterbean's spicy landmines.
Trying to end it in less than 18 seconds.
You know what? Butterbean thinks he's a big puncher. He weighs 300 pounds.
McNeely decided it was best not to fight, so he stood there like a walking punching bag. The referee had seen enough and stopped the fight before he ended up in a body bag. Butterbean versus Tim Burgoon. After getting tired of fighting inside the States, Butterbean decided to make a salad out of Tim Burgoon in Mexico.
The ropes. He's in full gear.
Burgoon tried to land some blows to Butterbean's face, but the panda refused to fall.
The last 2 rounds anyway. It was one way or the other.
Burgoon ate one missile after another, and that made him run away in the ring like a girl. Butterbean launched a full-on nuclear strike on Burgoon and forced the referee to step in before he went home in pieces. Butterbean versus Ed White. Ed White came in strong, tall, and overconfident that he could challenge the Beast for the IBA title. The fight began, and it looked like the fight was a challenge for Butterbean.
People that follow him, he brings great entertainment to the sport, and I admire him for what he does.
Ed White starts out sticking the jab and trying to land a right hand behind it. Big Ed.
Ed managed to rock the giant silly, and people thought it was over.
Punched pretty well, as he's showing you here. Grinning through the assault of Ed White, but Butterbean's not scoring much yet.
Yeah, Butterbean is trying to let Ed White punch himself out. Then Butterbean will look to land a big punch.
But that only started a storm inside Butterbean that would eat up White alive.
Oh! Haymaker right hand by Butterbean, and Ed White paying the...
He pounced on White like a madman and made him take a nap on the floor. Butterbean versus Paul Springer, the cocky bodybuilder. Paul Springer thought he could make his boxing debut against Butterbean, but the scoundrel had more muscles than brains. As soon as the bell rang, the fool ran into Butterbean and thought this was a wrestling match.
Took him 2 weeks, and he did. And he has Paul Springer coming right at him.
He unloaded attacks from everywhere and played a foul game.
And he is an APF National Powerlifting Champion.
And he's trying to lift Butterbean right now.
But when Butterbean got serious, he dropped this giant like a potato sack, and the fight was over before anyone could blink twice. Butterbean versus James Thompson. Thompson thought it would be a good idea to provoke Butterbean before their fight, but this fool failed to realize that he angered a beast within a marshmallow-looking guy. When the fight began, the fluffy pancake launched on Thompson like he was maple syrup.
This is the thing that I see in Butterbean. James has...
He instantly dropped him with a torpedo and ended the fight within 10 seconds.
About it. I mean, that's about it. Butterbean.
Thompson got up and didn't even recognize the continent he was in. Butterbean versus Doug Norris. Doug Norris unloaded a face that looked slightly constipated when he stood in front of Butterbean. But this cocky fool was going to turn into pepperoni pizza soon enough. Norris kept his distance and decided to play a technical game.
With making him into a folk hero, because you announced so many of those. Think of what.
He tried to dodge Butterbean's punches, but ate a few of them on his head.
And gets to the head of Doug Norris. Norris landing the jab very effectively here.
But then he got rocked like a punching bag and forgot where he was.
And that's what hurt Doug Norris. I was joking, but that was the problem.
And in round 2, the oversized monkey fell from the tree and landed face first. Butterbean versus George Lindberger. Just like his fight with the cabbage, this next fight looked like two fast food chains fighting for their customers. George Lindberger may have set the record for getting knocked out faster than anyone could take their seat. At the ring of the bell, Butterbean launched a two-punch combination that dropped the giant to the floor.
Oh, it didn't take long for Butterbean to the floor. I don't think
He wanted to fight more, but his legs told a different story, and the referee ended the match. Butterbean versus Patrick Graham. Butterbean's next target was Patrick Graham. Graham was overconfident, staring at Butterbean like he was the last slice of pizza in his fridge. But this cocky fool didn't realize that Butterbean hadn't eaten for 3 days, and he was his celebration meal.
Center as has De La Hoya at this point.
I can tell Graham he better just watch out. Butterbean can hit.
After eating a few missiles from Butterbean, Patrick decided to keep his distance, but not for long.
And Graham is setting his feet and trying to think of throwing something.
Butterbean has got footwork.
Yep, there you go. Heel clamp.
Butterbean launched an overhand right hand that made Patrick stare at him like he was the class bully.
Butterbean has no interest other than power.
Graham refused to give up and started showing off his footwork.
He intended to move up into the 10 rounders. I mean, he's preparing himself for that. Remember, he didn't have much of an amateur career.
But then the marshmallow threw a punch that landed his opponent outside the ring. Butterbean versus Jonathan Whitfield. Jonathan Whitfield tried to intimidate Butterbean with his height, but fighting taller guys was like roasting chicken on a grill for Butterbean.
That right hand from Butterbean. Overhand right.
Whitfield was shredded and more muscular. He tried to taunt Butterbean mid-fight, but that only made matters worse.
First round knockouts, including the last 4 in a row.
In round 2, Butterbean caught Whitfield in the ropes and smothered him like an onion.
Jab out, right now not thinking jab.
After getting a good cardio session done, Butterbean almost landed on top of Whitfield, and then Whitfield ended up behind the ropes with his body jab. Butterbean versus Pat Jackson. Another arrogant fool who tried to intimidate Butterbean with his height was Pat Jackson. But little did he know that the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Pat Jackson tried to outbox the beanbag.
Myers outboxed Butterbean, but the Bean got a decision.
But he kept on coming. Jackson got tired from all the running, so he decided to take a rest on Butterbean's gloves.
Believe me, Butterbean wants to see that.
Even the referee ate a knuckle sandwich at the hands of the fluffy beanbag.
And referees cannot protect themselves at all times the way fighters do it.
And then Pat Jackson had enough and chickened out of the fight. Butterbean versus James Baker. Chris Baker thought he could last more than 2 rounds with Butterbean, but his fight would turn into the fastest knockout ever.
James Baker has him down in the first round.
Butterbean managed to hurt the bakery early on.
Like to see. He is all over.
And then he began swinging in the air like a girl.
All over.
He fell on the floor like a log and couldn't even get up. Butterbean versus Brian Henry. Brian Henry thought he could discuss strategy with his trainer and hoped to puncture the hot air balloon. Butterbean came in looking like a clown, but that didn't stop him from punching harder than ever.
Right to the head of Henry. Now Henry knows he cannot be too scientific,
The beanbag began swinging in the air like Henry owed him money and landed some blind missiles through his thick skull.
Yeah. Oh, he took a shot.
And then he detonated a landmine that launched Henry to the moon. The fight was over before Henry's family could say hello. So, did you enjoy these knockouts? What made Butterbean's knockouts so powerful? And if you would like to see more of this content, then subscribe and like this video. We recommend you watch this video next.